Moses was old. His face bore the lines of countless years, each wrinkle a testament to the trials and tribulations he had faced. His eyes, though weary, still held a spark of determination and wisdom. He had led his people for decades, through the scorching heat of the desert and the cold nights under the stars. He had been their guide, their leader, and their prophet. He had seen them through times of despair and moments of hope. But his journey wasn't over. Despite his age and the weariness in his bones, there was one final task that lay ahead of him, a task that would require all the strength and faith he had left. God called him to Mount Nebo. This was not just any mountain. It was a place of profound significance, a place where the divine and the earthly met. "Go up to this mountain," God said. The command was clear, and Moses knew he had to obey. It was a call that resonated deep within his soul. It's in the Abarim range. The range was rugged and formidable, a series of peaks and valleys that seemed to stretch on forever. It was a place that tested the limits of human endurance. This was no ordinary mountain. It was a place where history and destiny converged, a place that held the weight of countless generations. It held a special significance, for it was from this mountain that Moses would see the culmination of his life's work, the promised land that he had strived so hard to reach. From its peak, Moses would see the promised land. Moses climbed. Each step was a struggle, each breath a labor, but he pressed on, driven by a force greater than himself. He was weary from his travels. The years of wandering had taken their toll, and his body ached with the weight of his journey. Yet he pushed on. He knew that this was his destiny, his final act of faith. He knew this was God's command. And so, with each step, he prayed. He prayed for strength, for guidance, and for the courage to see this journey through to the end. Finally, he reached the summit. The view was breathtaking. It was a sight that defied description, a panorama of beauty and promise that stretched out as far as the eye could see. It stretched out before him like a tapestry. The promised land, a place of hope and future, lay before him in all its glory. And in that moment, Moses knew that his journey, though arduous, had been worth every step. Below him lay Canaan, a land of ancient promise and divine destiny. It was a land of milk and honey, a phrase that evoked abundance and prosperity, a place where dreams could flourish. God had promised it to Abraham, the patriarch who had journeyed from Ur to this very land, guided by faith and divine vision. Isaac and Jacob, his descendants, had also been promised this land, a covenant that spanned generations, binding them to this sacred soil. Now Moses stood on the precipice, gazing upon the land with his own eyes, a moment of fulfillment and bittersweet realization. God pointed out the different regions, each with its own unique beauty and significance. "See Gilead," God said, a region known for its balm and healing properties. "It belongs to the Reubenites," God continued, indicating the land that would be home to the tribe of Reuben, a place of heritage and belonging. "Look beyond," God said, "that's the territory of Gad, a land of rolling hills and expansive plains, rich with potential and promise." Moses saw the land of the Gadites, a fertile expanse that would sustain and nurture the tribe. Next, God showed him Manasseh, a region of vast fields and fertile valleys, a testament to the land's richness. He saw how vast and fertile it was, a land that could support generations, a place where life could thrive. This land was their inheritance, a divine gift passed down through the ages, a symbol of God's enduring promise. It was a reward for their faithfulness, a testament to their unwavering belief and trust in God's plan, a land where they could build a future and fulfill their destiny. As the sun set over Canaan, casting golden hues across the landscape, Moses felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. This was the land of promise, a place where hope and faith converged, a testament to the enduring power of belief. The ancient scrolls had foretold of this land, a place where the descendants of Abraham would flourish, a land flowing with milk and honey, a beacon of hope for generations to come. In this land, the people would cultivate crops, tend to their livestock, and build communities rooted in faith and tradition. It was a land where they could live in harmony with nature and with each other. Children would play in the fields, their laughter echoing through the valleys, while families gathered for meals, sharing the bounty of the land and the blessings of their heritage. Under the night sky, with stars shining brightly, the people would look up and remember the promises made to their ancestors, a reminder of the covenant that bound them to this sacred land. And as Moses looked over the land, a sense of fulfillment in his eyes, he knew that this was the culmination of a journey, a testament to faith, perseverance, and the enduring promise of a land of milk and honey. Moses felt a pang of sadness. He wouldn't cross the Jordan River. He wouldn't enter the promised land. God had decreed it. "You have seen the land," God said, "but you will not go there." Moses accepted God's judgment. He had disobeyed God once before. He had struck the rock at Meribah. This act had consequences. He would witness the promised land, but he would not step foot in it. This was his punishment. Yet Moses remained faithful. He trusted God's plan. Moses stood tall on the mountain. He was 120 years old. Yet his eyes were clear, his vigor was strong. God told him, "This is the land I promised." Moses looked out at the vast expanse. He saw the future of his people. Then it was time. God said, "Close your eyes, Moses." And with that, Moses breathed his last. He died on that mountaintop. God himself buried him in a valley in Moab. No one knows the exact location of his grave. The Israelites were devastated. They wept for Moses. They mourned for 30 days. The entire nation grieved. He was their leader. He had brought them out of Egypt. He had freed them from slavery. He had given them God's law. Moses was gone, but he would never be forgotten. He was a prophet like no other. He had spoken directly to God. He had received the 10 Commandments. He had led his people with strength and compassion. Joshua was Moses' successor. God had chosen him. He was a capable leader. He had been Moses' assistant. He had learned from the best. Now it was his turn to lead. God assured Joshua, "Be strong and courageous." Joshua was filled with the spirit of wisdom. He was ready to guide the Israelites. He would lead them into Canaan. He would conquer their enemies. He would establish them in the promised land. He would fulfill God's promise. Moses' relationship with God was unique. No other prophet had that same intimacy. God spoke to Moses face to face. It was as if they were close friends. This was a rare and special bond. It set Moses apart. Moses was a powerful intercessor. He pleaded with God for his people. He calmed God's anger. He sought forgiveness for their sins. He stood between God and the Israelites. He was their advocate and protector. The death of Moses marked the end of an era. It was the closing of a chapter. He was the last of the great patriarchs. He had witnessed miracles. He had led his people through trials and triumphs. Now his journey was complete. But his story lived on. It was passed down through generations. It was told and retold. It became a part of their history. It shaped their identity. It reminded them of God's faithfulness. Moses' legacy was profound. He was a lawgiver, he was a liberator, he was a prophet. His journey began in the land of Egypt, where he was born into a life of slavery. But destiny had other plans for him. Rescued from the Nile by Pharaoh's daughter, he was raised in the royal palace, yet he never forgot his roots. He grew up witnessing the suffering of his people, the Israelites, and it ignited a fire within him. He left an indelible mark on his people. When he encountered God in the form of a burning bush, his life took a divine turn. He was chosen to lead his people out of bondage, to confront Pharaoh, and to demand freedom for the Israelites. With unwavering faith, he performed miracles, parting the Red Sea and guiding his people through the wilderness. His words and deeds continued to inspire. On Mount Sinai, he received the 10 Commandments, laws that would become the foundation of moral and ethical conduct for generations to come. These commandments were not just rules, they were a covenant between God and his people, a promise of guidance and protection. He showed the world what it meant to lead with faith and courage. Despite the challenges and the doubts of those he led, Moses remained steadfast. He taught that true leadership is not about power, but about service and sacrifice. His leadership was a beacon of hope in times of despair. His life was a testament to God's power. From the plagues that struck Egypt to the manna that fell from heaven, every step of his journey was marked by divine intervention. He showed that with faith, even the impossible becomes possible. He was a beacon of hope. In the darkest times, he reminded his people that they were not alone, that God was with them, guiding and protecting them. His faith was unshakable, and it inspired others to believe in the promise of a better future. He reminded everyone that God keeps his promises. The journey to the Promised Land was long and arduous, filled with trials and tribulations, but Moses never wavered in his belief that God would fulfill his promise. He taught his people to trust in God's timing and to remain faithful, even when the path seemed uncertain. Even in the face of adversity, God is faithful. Moses' story is a testament to the power of faith and perseverance. He faced countless obstacles, from the wrath of Pharaoh to the doubts of his own people, yet he never lost sight of his mission. His unwavering faith in God's plan gave him the strength to overcome every challenge. His story gave strength to the weary and hope to the despairing. Through his life and legacy, Moses showed that no matter how difficult the journey, with faith and determination, we can overcome any obstacle. His legacy continues to inspire and guide us, reminding us that with God, all things are possible. Though Moses was gone, the journey wasn't over. The Israelites had a destiny to fulfill. They had a land to possess. They had a future to build. They carried Moses' memory with them. They held on to his teachings. They marched forward with courage. They were ready to face the challenges ahead. They knew that God was with them, just as he had been with Moses. Their journey continued. The Promised Land awaited. The story of faith and redemption would continue.